Hey, people online, can you hear me all right? Awesome, just checking. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Actually, it's not on right now.
Is it not? It sounded like it was on.
This is on. This is on. Test, test, but they're not showing the committee room yet.
Oh, so yeah, there's no connection. Darn.
This is Vicky. Whoever's talking, I can hear you.
This is Senator Pittman.
Hey!
How are you? Chairman's not here yet, but he'll be here soon, I think.
Just wanted to let you know. You said you didn't think anybody could hear you. We can hear you on the virtual platform anyway.
We were checking out the visual, though. They don't have the visual on the committee room yet.
Yeah, it's on. Oh, well, I'm on.
Good morning, Madam Commissioner. This is Rochelle Colombo with KMS. That's why we were checking the mics. It's nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
Good morning, committee. We will call the insurance committee for Thursday, January 14th to order. First item on the agenda is bill introductions. I'm going to do one for the OSBC that they referenced yesterday in their presentation. This is the one on mortgage lending. Eileen, do you happen to have the RS number for that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, good. Technical difficulties averted. It's RS 0204.
Okay. Any objection to that bill being introduced? Seeing none, it will be introduced. I'm now going to call on our insurance commissioner, Commissioner Vicki Smith. I believe she has some bill introductions also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I do. I have RS 0074. It's a credit for reinsurance. It deals with accreditation. It's part of the agreement between the US and the EU. Do you want me to go over, do you want me to pause after each one, Mr. Chairman?
I think due to the non-controversial nature, let's just do all 5 of them, shall we?
Thank you. I appreciate that. The next one is RS 0054, victims compensation. Less than 7% of investment scam victims see recovery, and this will help but not make them whole, and it doesn't involve any tax dollars. The next one is RS 0061. It's the annual RBC, and it's just a date change. The fourth one is RS 0056 on producer licensing. It's part of the ongoing effort to modernize the licensing for the future. And it also changes the appointment process. It saves companies an estimated $4 million annually. And the final one is RS 0073. It's a cleanup bill. It has some pieces from last session that when we just ran out of time, and some repealing of statutes that we no longer need. So I would submit those 5 bills for introduction, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any objection? Seeing none, those bills will be introduced. And just while I'm thinking about it, it is my intention, you received next week's calendar probably maybe today. Wednesday and Thursday will show that it is a meeting on the call of the chair. The chair is going to call the meeting. We will most likely hear some of these insurance bills next Wednesday and Thursday, but until I get a bill number and get it referred back to the committee, I can't establish an actual hearing. So I'll let you know. When you see your original calendar, it's going to look a bit funny to you, but that is my intention to start hearing some of these insurance bills next week. Okay, the next item on our agenda is an overview of the Kansas Insurance Department and the insurance industry in Kansas, and we will turn our attention back to Commissioner Vicki Smith. Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Longbine and members of the committee. Let me start by offering my sincere congratulations. Having been through a few of these tough legislative sessions, I know the hard work that lies ahead of you, but I truly want to thank you for your willingness to serve. I am grateful to be here before you, and I apologize that I am not before your committee in person. I intended to be, but my government affairs director, Lee Modesitt, unfortunately has some mild COVID symptoms, and so I thought it would be wise to do this virtually for right now. Hopefully by summer, all of this will be behind us and we can get back to some semblance of normal. I'm hoping. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the legislative session, but before I provide an overview of the department, I wanted to talk to you briefly about my view of my role as a regulator. My philosophy and approach to legislation has certainly been shaped by my time in the Kansas Senate. As some of you know from our service together, I served for 14 years in this body, 12 of which were on this committee, and before being elected insurance commissioner. As a legislator, I did not like it when bureaucrats or agency heads or agencies came over and essentially tried to tell us what to do. You are all elected to represent your district, and I believe you should be trusted to do that. I have a policy at the department that we will not weigh in to support or oppose legislation unless it is part of our accreditation or directly deals with our ability to function as a department, which would include consumer protection. However, we will be responsive to you as legislators, provide neutral information on potential effects of the policy changes that you are considering, and let you make the decision that is best in your view for your constituents.
Commissioner, can I interrupt you for just a second? We have lost your video. We still have your audio. Could you check and make sure that your camera is working properly? And I suspect it's on our end, but if it is something that is on your end, we'd like to see you as well as hear you.
Oh, I don't know. This might be better. I stopped and restarted, and I can see on the virtual people can still see me, I believe. Connor, yeah. So on the virtual screen, we still see you and we see each other.
Okay, go ahead and continue, and we will try to get it fixed on our end.
Well, at least it's not as bad as what happened to us yesterday when we didn't have audio or video. So I'm pretty thankful if you still have audio. Okay.
Once again, the Senate's in the lead.
Always, always, Mr. Chairman. But don't tell the House I said that, please. I have legislation over there also. When I was sworn in 2 years ago, a priority of mine was finding all of the efficiencies that the legislature envisioned in 2017 when they placed the Office of Securities Commissioner underneath the Department of Insurance. I will be the first to admit that I didn't initially support that legislation, but now I do see the wisdom in it. My team and I immediately went to work when we took office on finding a location that would house both divisions, but more importantly, improve our communication and service to Kansans. Our old building that many of you are familiar with was a historic building that was never intended to be an office building. It served the department well for years, but it did lack some of the basic functions for modern office space. So we are now housed under one roof at 1300 Southwest Arrowhead Road, right here in Topeka. Would love it if you all would, when you feel comfortable, would like to come out for a tour and or a visit. There are lots of other operational improvements as well, besides just moving, that we were able to combine. We combined human resources, government affairs, communication, and payroll operations. We can never stop looking for ways to be more efficient in our operations. We also have a new website. Anytime you combine agencies, I felt it was important to have a cohesive message. So we took a little bit of a chance, some might say. We hired a Washburn graduate to be an intern for us, and he impressed us so much that we let him redesign the department's public presence. We've been really pleased with that result. This is just one of many examples of where we've been trying to be more efficient and cost effective in implementing the changes that the legislature did envision in 2017. We created a new logo that incorporates, I was going to show you my pen, but since you can't see it, you can look for it everywhere. We created a new logo.
We do have you back now.
Oh, great, good, okay. Well, we created a new, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We created a new logo that incorporates a shield that represents consumer protection responsibilities of both of our divisions. The sunflower represents the people of Kansas, and the color blue represents the blue sky laws, which were first adopted right here in Kansas. We have a new website. It's insurance.ks.gov. That merged and updated information from both of the divisions. And we have modernized our publications to make them easier to read and understand. We've overhauled our social media channels, and we hope that we're providing better and more useful content to Kansans with some humor sometimes. There are some, these aren't really big changes. They aren't huge changes, but I do believe they go a long way in helping us educate the public, which is part of our mission. So COVID. Within a few months of completing our move, we were hit with the challenges of COVID. Early on, the department faced the same challenges that all of you faced, whether it was in your businesses or in agencies, and just what everybody faced. How do you continue operating while you are not designed really for remote work? So we had worked through some of those continuity of operation plans in our move, and we were then trying just to remain working while not being fully staffed in the office. It also meant that the staff hadn't really settled in from the move, and we disrupted everyone all again. We've outfitted our entire staff with laptops to help with the remote work during the pandemic. And obviously the switch to laptops was in our longer term plan, but we implemented that much quicker. We fluctuate currently on the number of staff on any given day in the office. We promote social distancing, but we do remain fully operational and responsive to Kansans. Regardless of our in-office mitigation efforts, I have made it a priority to continue to be able to continue to serve Kansans. I was elected to serve all Kansans, and I believe they deserve a government that absolutely works for them. I know that I can only control what my department does, but I will continue to do everything I can to ensure that Kansans get the services they need and they expect, regardless of what's happening around us. Another challenge we had early on was producer licensing. COVID made it increasingly difficult for applicants or producers or agents to get licensed as the testing center shut down and the fingerprint services were very, very limited. While other states took a more Band-Aid approach and issued many temporary licenses, I wanted to search for a real solution, and Kansas proudly became the first state in the nation to get our testing locations back open to get people to work. I'm very proud of that. We had a lot of conference calls at 9:30 at night even trying to get that to work. So to be the first in the nation was something that I'm very excited about. We since implemented online testing of applicants. We did that on December 15th of 2020, and we're working on additional ways to assist with getting the digital fingerprints done more timely. Our operations will be better than they were before the pandemic, and I'm proud that we have turned this challenge, a huge challenge, into many opportunities for the department. There are some additional advantages to our producer licensing legislation, and that'll be discussed, as you indicated, when we have the hearings on that producer licensing bill. One thing I did want to go back to briefly is I really did want to give a shout out to Eileen Ma during the bill introduction, and I apologize that I didn't do it at that point. But Eileen has been so good to work with and has really helped us move our bills along in the process through the revisor's office. And I appreciate the close working relationship that we've had with Eileen. It's been a good partnership. Okay, so on accreditation, Kansas is a member of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. It's NAIC is the foundational structure of all the state-based regulation for the country. As a member of NAIC, the department has to go through accreditation, and this takes place just like clockwork every 5 years. The purpose of the process is to ensure that there's some uniformity, a baseline of uniformity across all the states in order that we can maintain that state-based regulation that we value so highly. Two pieces of our legislative agenda deal specifically with our accreditation issues, and they will be critical to maintain our good standing as we go through that accreditation process. Again, we'll be happy to discuss that when you have the hearing on those accreditation issues. Finally, I want to mention that this year, the Kansas Insurance Department will be celebrating 150 years of service to Kansans. And the service to Kansans is the core of the work that we do every day. Since taking office, the department has successfully helped Kansans navigate the industry and return nearly $12 million to Kansas consumers. We've also, kind of unfortunately, but we've issued over $1 million in fines to those bad actors in the industry, and we are hoping that those fines will help them change their bad behavior. In addition, we have had wins for consumers in other areas. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have received requests from 83 companies that have totaled nearly $90 million in relief for Kansas insurance policyholders, and we are approving those rate changes as fast as we can. Much of this was related to the auto premiums. I'm hoping each one of you receives some relief on your auto premium in some way, but it also includes med mal, business, professional liability, and work comp. Our work on behalf of consumers is constant, and we do make it a priority. I also know that as a former legislator, you get many requests or problems or issues from constituents. I want you to know that I don't think anybody expects you to be an expert on all things insurance. So if you have an issue that you have from your constituent or from you, please send it to Lee Modesitt and we will get it taken care of, or we will find a way to refer you on. I'm going to be sharing our contact information. I think I know it's in my written report also. I cannot stress enough that if our issue, if the consumer's issue falls outside of our jurisdiction, then we will get them to the right place. We have lots of contacts and places to help people. Nothing frustrated me more as a legislator than to send a constituent issue to an agency and for the constituent to not get a response. I cannot always guarantee that your constituent will be happy with the response they receive from the department, but I can guarantee you that they will receive a response from us. Our contact information that I hope you'll share with your constituents, if you do a newsletter or you have electronic communications with your people or anytime you go out to the public, we would love to have you share our contact information with them. And if you contact Lee, we can get you the logo and things if you're going to use them in a newsletter. But please don't be afraid to use this as a resource. You can reach us through the web at insurance.ks.gov. Our Consumer Assistance Division is 1-800-432-2484, and they can file a complaint at kid.webcomplaints@kansas.gov. Of course, that link is also on that insurance.kansas.gov website. I really do appreciate the opportunity to address you today. Again, I apologize for not being there in person. Technology is very entertaining at times, but looks like at least it's working in this committee. And Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to for some easy questions if your committee has any. And thank you again.
Commissioner, thank you very much for the very thorough presentation. I'm going to start off with myself. A couple of years ago, as you know, we did implement legislation that brought the Securities Commissioner in under your purview. Could you talk a little bit about how that transition's gone? And I also understand that you have a new insurance commissioner that is probably going to be subject to Senate confirmation, or I'm sorry, a new securities commissioner that will be subject to Senate confirmation. So could you give us a little background on him and his name?
Sure. His name is Dan Klukas, Klucas. He has about 16 years of law enforcement background, and he also has 13 or 14 years of experience in the in state government in managerial positions. He brings to us a great combination of knowing how to run his department and learning things about security that fold into that, but he has a wealth of experience in management, and he also has worked within the state agencies. So he is a very, we just couldn't be happier. He started with us right before the holidays, the Christmas break, and he has just hit the ground running with visiting with, getting to know his staff, but also made some good changes already. As far as overall with the department, the move really helped bring together a cohesiveness of the securities division. They were located, as you might know, they were located at 9th in Kansas. We were located at 9th in Topeka. So the Capitol stood in our way. We traipsed through the Capitol back and forth as we were getting things organized. But, you know, they had application of several individuals doing work that we were doing at the department also. So we were able to combine all that. And that has really been a good thing for us. Plus, we started cross-training many people from insurance to securities, which I think is always a plus. And the legal department, for example, all of our attorneys now, whether they're in securities or the insurance division, they all report to Justin McFarland, to the general counsel. We've made some changes like that. HR has totally been combined, and certainly payroll and the efficiencies. We continue to look for efficiencies, but we have really done, I think, a pretty good job and have a pretty good handle on putting those things together. So while I initially did not vote for that bill, I did vote for it when it came back in the conference committee report. And I do think that it is with today's, with what goes on today in the insurance and securities world, there's so much overlap of individuals. And I think that we are seeing more and more agents become licensed in both areas. So it's really been a good decision, I think, that the legislature made.
Much, Commissioner. At this time, I'll open it up for questions. Are there any questions of the Commissioner? Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Vicki. It's nice to see you. I'm concerned about the ideations coming out of the federal government for the possible repeal of McCarran-Ferguson, which, as you know, would undermine the authority of each state's Department of Insurance to regulate insurance in their state. Have you or the NAIC been speaking up on the federal level as to how this would affect you?
Yes, I know. Thank you, Senator Gossage, and welcome to the Senate. Yes, I do know that NAIC, that has certainly been a part of the government relations calls, and that has certainly been a concern. There are a lot of moving pieces, as you certainly know, in DC, but we have been NAIC has been very active with that, and I think we will continue to see that activity increase. We believe in state-based regulation, and that is how we have functioned. That has worked well for many, many years. And I do think that individual states want to keep, I mean, I don't know of a state that doesn't want to keep that. So I think our voices are being heard. With the new administration, it's always, well, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out with the new administration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Additional comments or questions? Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Always a pleasure. Can you give any insights into, or do you have any kind of insight into the uptick or the degree of insurance claims related to the COVID pandemic, you know, around businesses or individuals? Do you have any kind of pulse on that you could lend some insight into how that's working right now? Or is there a huge number of claims out there from your perspective, or do you know?
Well, thank you, Senator Pittman, for the question. You know, I would say that our overall call volume in our Consumer Assistance Division has remained about the same, but the subject matter in those calls has certainly changed. COVID testing has been a challenge for the insurance department, for insurers, and for providers, and certainly for patients. You know, the federal government, through the CARES Act and the Family First Act, created a lot of different rules and regulations on COVID testing, for example. And, you know, by and large, patients should not be billed a facility fee or a provider fee or anything when getting a COVID test. But I think that it behooves us to remember that a year ago, we didn't even have any codes in the medical side of things for COVID testing, for COVID diagnosis, for treatment. We had none of those codes. Those have all been developed within the past 10 months or so. And so it's been an educational problem for educating all the players involved in the situation. I would say that I want to really commend the insurers that do business in Kansas, the insurance companies doing business in Kansas, because we have had many meetings with them, correspondence with them through email and telephone and et cetera. And there, with all the confusion surrounding that, we have been working diligently with them. We have had a fair amount of claims that that were initially billed by providers to insurance companies that were not paid correctly, but the insurance companies and certainly the providers recognized that very early on, and we got calls in the department from patients, consumers, and we worked with the insurance companies to rectify that, and they ran many of those claims back through their processes. You know, not thousands and thousands of claims, but hundreds of claims back through the system with the new edits and audits, and those were paid correctly, and refunds went back out to patients if they'd already paid a portion that they were not responsible for. So we have had some we've had some interesting meetings about these things, but you know, again, I want to emphasize that the insurance companies have been really good to work with, and so have the providers. But it's just been a thing of education and trying to have everyone on the same page with that. On the auto insurance issue with the property and casualty companies, you know, those were flying in the door. Sometime in May, we started seeing the changes of refunds and or credits, and many insurance companies did it. They all did it a little bit differently, but we were very happy to have that. And you know, we even got some thank you calls from consumers for when they got those checks back on those auto insurance policies for lack of miles driven. So we've seen some changes in the department, but overall, we've maintained about the same amount of activity on the consumer side.
Additional comments or questions? I see none. Commissioner, thank you very much for spending time with us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you either virtually or in person, maybe as soon as next week.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I really do appreciate you giving me this opportunity. It is a real pleasure, and it feels like coming home a little bit. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Committee, that is all I have on the agenda for today. We will not meet tomorrow. We will not meet on Monday. So I will see all of you Tuesday at 9:30. We are adjourned.